Hi Yogi, and welcome to another slow flow with me, Oceana. Today's class is really intended as a progression through our balancing series, all the way from a beginner friendly practice in week 1. Now in week 3, we've arrived at an intermediate to advanced level class. And of course, that means there will be less beginner friendly options. We will be focusing and spending more time on the intermediate to advanced variations of the balancing postures. And I will also expect you to know and understand the alignment of some of the very common yoga postures. I will also expect you to know how to do a vinyasa or how to modify it if that's in your regular practice. Of course, you can always skip the vinyasas completely. That's a great option too. And those are sort of the main points. If that's not the case for you, then this is not going to be a practice that you'll enjoy. I'll be giving less instructions and expecting you to find the postures a little bit faster than we normally might. And in terms of props, we're not going to use any props unless, because we will be doing crow pose. If you know that crow pose is a bit of a fear factor for you, you might want to have a bolster or pillow that you can put in front of you as a little bit of a crash mat, if that makes sense, in case things go terribly wrong. And if you know that malasana, yogi squat or Garland pose doesn't allow you to bring your heels all the way to the floor, then you might want to have some books or a blanket, maybe if you have some yoga blocks that you can bring under the heels for support. Aside from that, you don't need anything, and we'll start in a tabletop position in the center of our mat. So join me there when you're ready, Yogi. Once you come into the center of your mat, find your tabletop position. Make sure that the wrists are under the shoulders, knees directly under your hips. We'll do a few rounds of cat-cow here. So as you inhale, tuck the toes under, roll your tailbone up towards the ceiling, draw the shoulders back into an arch position of the spine. As you exhale, tops of the feet press into the floor, round the spine up towards the ceiling. And we'll move through a couple rounds in our own time, seeing if we can really match that movement to our breath cycle. So as you exhale, rounding up. As you inhale, arching forward, opening the chest towards the front of the mat. Seeing if you can really accurately connect the movement of the spine to the length of your own individual breath. So really making this your practice, and possibly seeing if you can smooth out that transition between those two extremes as you go from one to the other. Maybe even counting each individual vertebra of the spine, checking in to see what's going on today in your joints. And this final time, as you come back from a rounded position, find neutral spine between those two extremes. Tuck your right toes under, reach the left heel back and straighten the leg. Spin the heel to the ground so that you can windmill your left arm all the way forward. So optional here, you can bring your bottom foot behind the knee for a little bit of added support, but if you're working on improving your balance, you'll keep the foot and knee in one line. The lower elbow is soft and will float that top leg off the ground into a slightly more challenging variation of supported side plank. As you exhale, top knee towards the top elbow. Inhale, press the heel away, reach through the fingertips, extend left side of the body. Exhale to draw in. And just one final time. Inhale to lengthen. Exhale, really squeeze that top elbow towards the top knee, and then step the foot forward to the front of the mat. Frame it with both hands. Untuck your back toes. As you inhale, sweep the arms all the way up and overhead into a low lunge, asana. Let your chest lift towards your chin into just the tiniest of back bends. As you exhale, frame the front foot with both hands. Draw your hips all the way back. Now you could stay here with a bent knee, or you might straighten the front leg and lift the toes towards your face for full Ardha Hanumanasana half splits. As you inhale, you let the spine lengthen forward. As you exhale, the belly empties and you find that space to fold towards your front leg. 2 more times, moving with the breath. Inhale, the spine lengthens. Exhale, we fold. Rebend your front knee when you're ready. Lift the back knee off the ground. As you exhale, step the back foot forward, feet hip distance when you get there. On the inhale, hands on the floor or to the shins. Lift the chest, roll the shoulders back, let the back, either side of the neck, lengthen forward. As you exhale, keep the spine long, bend the knees if that helps, to fold all the way back in, Uttanasana. Soften the knees as you inhale to come all the way up to standing. Reach the arms up and overhead, palms touch. Lift the gaze towards your thumbs if that's okay for the neck. Exhale to release the hands down by the sides of your hips in Tadasana mountain pose. I'm going to come to face you side on so you can see a little bit better. From here, we're going to shift our weight into the right leg. Slowly lifting the left knee into the chest, left hand to the inside of the knee, right arm out at shoulder height. Option 1 to simply open the knee out to the left. Option 2, you can hook index, middle finger and thumb around the big toe and then pressing through the leg to gradually straighten it if that's available to you. If you want to challenge your balance a little bit more, take your gaze across to your right thumb. Maybe finding a little bit more length in your spine, a little bit more softness in the shoulders. As you inhale, bring the gaze forward, bring your knee into center so that you can take your right hand to the outside of the knee or the outside of the foot. We're going into the twisted variation. So left hand is going to spin all the way to the back of the mat. Either you're going to open simply the chest towards the left edge of the mat, or you're also extending the leg forward, pressing the foot away from yourself. And again, if you want to make your life extra challenging, then take the gaze towards your back thumb at the back of the mat. Stay for your last few rounds of breath. See if you can straighten the spine upright towards the ceiling. And gently on an inhale, either both hands to your top knee, or back hand is going to come forward to the inner edge of your foot. And gradually you're going to extend that leg forward. Maybe you're working towards straightening the leg. Maybe you're working towards folding in by drawing your elbows out to the side. And then as you inhale, bend the knee into the chest. Stay for a breath there. I'm going to turn sideways again to make it easier for you to see this part. From here, left foot goes behind you. See if you can catch it, the outer edge of the foot with your left hand, and then bring your index finger and thumb to touch, reach them all the way up and overhead for Natrajasana. Lord of the dance, you're going to press your left foot away, and the more you press the foot away, the more you're able to hinge forward over your right thigh bone. Having a sense that the chest is arching towards the front of your mat. And without pinging the foot, we're going to release the hand, reaching both arms forward. We find our way in slow motion to a high lunge. Just briefly opening, that's an official word, and expanding the chest towards the ceiling, pressing our back heel away. On the exhale, we frame the front foot and step our way all the way back into downward facing dog. We'll meet there. Optional to stay here to take a few moments of rest in child's pose, or we come through a vinyasa of your choice. As you inhale, you come forward, shoulders on top of the wrists in high plank. You lower down either in one straight line or via the knees, the elbows tuck in, the gaze is forward. In slow motion, lowering down for Chaturanga Dandasana. Tops of the feet press down. As you inhale, you roll the shoulders back and lift into your cobra pose or upward facing dog. And exhale takes you back to downward dog, either via the knees or one straight line. Exhale. On the inhale, lower the knees back into your tabletop position for the second side. We'll reach the right leg back, spin the right heel down so that we can sweep our right arm all the way up and overhead. And again, optional here to tuck your bottom toes behind the knee, otherwise keeping everything along the same line of the mat. Lower elbow is soft, and when you're ready, you float the top leg off the ground, flexing the toes towards the shin. As you exhale, top knee towards the top elbow. Inhale to lengthen and extend through right side of the body. Exhale to draw in. Inhale, one final time, really reaching, and exhale, crunching in as high as you can, stepping right foot forward, framing it with both hands. Untuck your back toes. As you inhale, you sweep the arms all the way up and overhead into your low lunge. Asana, lifting center of the chest towards the chin. Exhale, frame the front foot with both hands. Let your hips move back in space, finding your version of half splits Ardha Hanumanasana. So you could keep the front knee bent. You can straighten the front leg, maybe even lift the toes towards your face. On the inhale, crown of the head draws forward, the spine is long. As you exhale, you fold in towards that front leg. Inhale to lengthen, exhale, fold. One final time, letting the breath move you deeper into the pose. This time as you inhale, bend the front knee, tuck the back toes and lift the back knee off the mat. As you exhale, step your back foot to the front, feet hip distance when you get there. Inhale to lengthen the spine halfway, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale to fold back into your legs, Uttanasana, standing forward bend. Soften the knees, and with an inhale, reverse swan dive all the way back up to standing. Lift the gaze towards your hands and bring the palms to touch if you wish. As you exhale, hands down by the sides of the hips, returning yourself to mountain pose Tadasana. For the second side of Hasta Padangusthasana, hand to big toe pose, if I'm not completely wrong. So we're going to shift our weight across into the left leg so that we can draw the right knee into the chest. Right hand to the inside of the knee, or again, advanced variation. You bring index, middle finger and thumb to the big toe. Either way, we're going to open the knee to the side and use the left arm at shoulder height for counterbalance. And then if you are hooking the toe, you can press through the heel and ball of the foot. Option 1 to keep the gaze forward, or you can take it across to your left thumb to challenge yourself a little bit more, as long as you can keep the breath even and a nice long spine here. On an inhale, knee comes back into center so that we can swap the left hand either to the outside of the knee or all the way to the outside of the foot. Right arm windmills all the way up and overhead to the back of the mat. You're going to press the right foot away if you've caught the outer edge. And standing nice and tall again, you're spinning the chest open to the right side of the mat. Lifting the crown of the head, maybe taking your gaze all the way to the back of the mat, gazing at that right thumb. And gently on an inhale, top hand comes all the way forward. You're either going to squeeze your top knee in or bring the hand to the inside of your top foot and then press the foot away from yourself, working towards a straight leg, or maybe bending at the elbows to bring yourself closer to that front leg. Draw the knee back in when you're ready. I'm going to step to the side, make it easier for you to see again. And from here, we'll make our way into Natarajasana, Lord of the Dance, not the Irish one for a change. So again, our weight is in the left leg. You might still have the right knee drawn in, so we're going to bring the right foot behind us and see if we can catch the outer edge of the foot with our right hand. Left arm reaches all the way up and overhead with the index and thumb touching, and then we press the foot away from ourselves so that we start to hinge forward over our left thigh bone. If you lose your balance, just embrace the wobbles. Really, as much as you kick into the leg, the more you can lean forward. And then very, very gently, without pinging that top foot, you're going to release the leg, plant it all the way down, and find your way more or less gracefully into a high lunge, reaching the fingertips up, lengthening through the front of the body and pressing that back heel away. Exhale to frame your front foot and step it all the way back into a downward facing dog. As always, yogi's choice. You could stay here, you could rest in child's pose. If you want to move more, you come forward into your high plank as you inhale. You lower down via the knees or one straight line. Inhale, either into your cobra pose or upward facing dog. And let the exhale draw your sitting bones up and back, either in one straight line or via the knees. We meet again in downward facing dog, Ardha Mukha Svanasana. From here, the big toes touch at the back of the mat. As you inhale, left leg lifts up and back into your three-legged dog. On the exhale, you draw that left knee forward and across towards your right elbow, maybe even the armpit. Hover for a moment and then inhale back into your three-legged dog. Exhale, left knee towards the left elbow. Again, hover just briefly. Inhale it up and back. Exhale, draw the knee in towards your nose, round the forehead and press the floor away for tiger's curl. Step or shimmy the left foot towards the front of the mat. From here, we're going to prepare ourselves for a standing splits variation. So right hand is going to walk towards the front right edge of your mat as far forward as you can. The back knee draws in towards the chest and you're going to reach around the back of the thigh for the top of the foot. See if you can draw your heel towards the sitting bone and then lift the knee up towards the ceiling. Now, as you start to fold in towards your standing leg, you can of course always have a little bend on that standing leg. And if you feel like you're fairly stable here, see if you can lift the top knee a little bit higher, maybe even take the gaze under your right armpit, which is a little bit more tricky, shifting the gaze in our balancing postures. And when you're ready, without pinging that top foot, release it very, very gently. Plant both hands at the front of the mat, reach your right big toe back and lengthen. Then in slow motion, step the foot behind you. About a leg length's distance between the legs, but between the feet rather. As you inhale, lift the arms all the way up into your high lunge. Draw the chest towards the ceiling. Exhale, swim the hands back down, frame the front foot, and step it back to downward facing dog, Ardha Mukha Svanasana. As before, yogi's choice, you could stay, you could rest. Otherwise, we come through a vinyasa of our choice to a high plank as we inhale. Exhale to lower down. Inhale into the back bend of your choice. And exhale back via the knees or one straight line to downward facing dog, and we meet there. Big toes touch at the back of the mat as you inhale, right leg lifts up and back. Three-legged dog, reach through that right big toe. As you exhale, right knee moves forward and across towards that left elbow and we hover there. Inhale it up and back. Exhale, right knee towards the right elbow. We hover for a moment. Inhale to lift up and back. Exhale, right knee towards the nose, around the spine and press the floor away. Tiger's curl. And then step or shimmy the foot to the front of the mat. Again, preparing ourselves for our standing splits. So left hand walks to the front left edge of your mat. Back knee draws into the chest. You're going to reach the right hand all the way around the back of the thigh to see if you can grab hold of the top of your foot. And start by aiming the heel towards the sitting bone. And then if you can, you lift your left knee up towards the ceiling. Always optional to keep a bend on the standing leg. Maybe even shifting the gaze under your left armpit. Staying for your last few rounds of breath here, finding a little stability and balance, maybe challenging your balance by shifting the gaze a little bit further away from you. And then gently again, without pinging that top foot, you're going to release your top hand to the front of the mat, straighten the top leg and reach it back. Land it about a leg length behind you in slow motion. On the inhale, sweep your arms all the way up and over into that high lunge. Press the back heel away. Exhale to swim your way back to the floor. Frame the front foot and step it back to downward facing dog. We'll meet there. And as always, here, yogi's choice. You can inhale forward into your vinyasa. You could stay or rest. If you're coming through as you exhale, lower down. Inhale into the back bend of your choice. And exhale back. Via the knees or one straight line, we meet in our downward facing dog. Shift the gaze forward towards your hands when you're ready. You can walk, step, or jump the feet forward. If you're jumping, shift the gaze about sort of maybe an inch or two in front of the middle space between your thumbs. Bend your knees quite deeply, and then from here, bunny hop your way forward. As you inhale, lift the chest halfway. As you exhale, fold back into the legs. With soft knees, as you inhale, reach the arms all the way up and overhead for your upward salute or Urdhva Hastasana. Exhale, release the hands down by your side into Tadasana, mountain pose. From here, we're going to start shifting our weight forward into the tiptoes so that we lift the heels really high. And once you find your balance here, start to reach your arms overhead again towards the ceiling. Soften the shoulders. And if you want to make your balance a little bit trickier, you can lift the gaze towards your pinky fingers for your last couple rounds of breath. Don't worry if that means you have to sort of find a little bit of adjustment in your feet again. And we're going to start sort of diving forward here by hinging forward at the hips, taking the center of your chest towards the front of your mat and bringing your hands by the sides of the hips with the palms facing up. You might come parallel to the floor without dropping your heels, or you might have space to fold a little bit further into full diver's pose. And then slowly bending the knees, you're going to start to bring your sitting bones towards the heels. When you get there, lift the chest, reach the arms all the way in front of you to counterbalance as you slowly let the heels reach towards the floor and let your sitting bones come all the way down with control. Shins parallel to the ground into boat pose as if nothing had ever happened. And of course, if you made your way there slightly less gracefully, then don't worry about it. It's the least of your worries. From here, we'll do a little bit more core work. So we'll come into low boat pose, aiming the lower back to come all the way down onto the ground, reaching the feet forward, squeezing the legs together, arms by the sides of the hips. As you exhale, you're going to draw the knees towards the armpit, reach your palms up towards the ceiling into a reclined crow pose. Inhale, reach the big toes forward, squeeze the legs together. Maybe the arms come overhead as long as you can still press the lower back down through your abdominals. And exhale, bring the knees in towards the armpits, reach the palms up towards the ceiling, really reaching as high as you can. Final time here with the inhale, legs go forward, pressing the lower back down, maybe reaching the arms forward in our low boat pose. As you exhale, draw the knees in towards the armpits, reach the palms up really high. Squeeze a little bit tighter if you can. As you exhale, the hands draw the knees in towards the chest. You can release your shoulders and head to the floor. Have a little rock side to massage the back of the body. A few deep breaths to release any tension in the center of the body, your core body. And from here, a couple different ways of getting back up. Of course, you could just roll to one side and make your way there. We'll meet in a chair pose. If you want to try something a little bit more adventurous, the hands go under your knees. You're going to use your legs to build a little bit of momentum as you rock through the spine. And eventually you might build enough momentum to bring the feet down and very, very smoothly make your way to chair pose. Not here for long. We'll exhale to fold all the way into the legs. And we'll Charlie Chaplin our feet apart to shoulder distance. bending the knees enough so that we can bring our torso all the way onto the thighs, grabbing hold of our elbows. We have a little bit of time to sway side to side, maybe checking in with the head and neck by giving it a brief nod of the head, yes, and a shake of the head, no. Or swap the forearm that's on top. We might find a little bit of stillness for the last couple breaths here. We might lengthen the backs of the legs, maybe shifting our weight forward into the balls of our feet. And from here, gradually hands on the floor. You want about a 5 to 10 degree turnout of your toes to bring your sitting bones down into Garland Pose Malasana, sometimes also called Yogi Squat. If, of course, your heels are lifted away from the floor here and you can't bring them down, do not despair. Simply slide something under your heels that will allow you to rest them all the way down. So it could be, of course, a yoga brick, it can be books, anything you have at hand. Now, from here, we'll spend a little bit of time here. You can simply sort of rock through your knees, allow your hips to move sideways, easing into the pose. And this is a great sort of test to see whether you have the flexibility for crow pose, which is what we'll be attempting next. So ideally, you would be able to get your knees anywhere along your upper arm, so anywhere above the elbow, really. The best case scenario, you can get your knees all the way into your armpit, which I think is the easiest variation because it sort of allows your crow pose to be less about strength and more about seesawing into the balancing pose. Now, if flexibility is a little bit more tricky, then it can also be helpful to have your knees on the outside of the upper arms and squeeze them in so that you can still lift off. So with that in mind, I'll slide slightly further back into the center of my mat. And from here, I'm going to lift onto my tiptoes to squeeze the knees into my armpits. I'm going to have about a hand length distance from the heel of my hand to my toes. Hands are shoulder distance with the index fingers pointing forward. I'm going to engage my hands. And slowly from here, I'm shifting my weight forward, taking my gaze to the very, very front of my mat, and I can lift one foot at a time towards the sitting bone. And that is variation 1 of crow pose. Now, if you are going to take this into the full balance, it's very important to remember that where you look is where you go. So if you're looking at the floor, you're going to go down. That's the unfortunate truth. So you really have to look quite far, I would say at least a foot or 2 in front of you, so that your body weight starts to shift far enough forward that you can lift your hips on top of, or almost on top of your wrists. Now, you really want to think about the same actions as we did in our tiger's curl. So you're pressing the floor away through your hands, rounding the spine up towards the ceiling, and really drawing your knees as high as you can into the center of the body. And hopefully we'll have a little try, but of course you can always put a blanket or a couple of pillows in front of your face in case there's an element of fear, which I think is always the main thing holding most of us back in our arm balances. So hands shoulder distance, we're preparing ourselves, we're engaging the hands properly. We're going to squeeze the knees either into the outside of our upper arms or all the way into the backs of the arms. And then one leg at a time lifts, the gaze is forward. Maybe we get a little bit of air time. And if we do, we start to maybe try to straighten the arms, maybe squeezing our heels a little bit closer towards the sitting bones. And when you're ready, you've had enough, you slowly allow your feet to come back to the floor. And from here, we'll do a little bit of a stretch for our wrists. So we'll squeeze the wrists in between our thighs and our calves. And you can have a little bit of time to open and close your hands, which should be a really nice release for the wrists. And making our way back into our Garland pose. From here, we'll have right hand to the inside of the right knee, pressing into the right hand, we'll open the left arm all the way up and overhead to the space behind us. So the center of the chest spins open into a little bit of a twist. And if you're very, very bendy and you want to take this a little bit further, you can bend that top elbow and see if you can reach for the opposite knee. Keeping the top chest lifted for the last couple of breaths here. Allowing the sitting bones to be really heavy. And then release the top hand and we'll swap sides. So again, left hand to the inside of the knee, right arm reaches all the way up and back. And if you want to go a little bit further, you bend the top elbow. See if you can reach behind you for the opposite knee, allowing your right sitting bone to really descend towards the floor, so you're lengthening that whole right side of the body. And as you exhale, top hand comes down. We'll make our way all the way to a seated position. Feet hip distance when you get there. Plant the hands behind your sitting bones. And for a moment, lift the chest, roll your shoulders back into a slight arch. So, of course, crow pose is a very, very rounded spine. So we sort of, from that flexion, we want a really deep counter pose. We want to arch the spine into an extension. Just for a moment, a couple of breaths here. We keep the gaze down, really focusing on lifting the chest up towards the ceiling, towards the chin. And gradually from here, when you're ready, release. And we'll briefly do a little bit of a release for the hips as well, so you can have the feet as wide as your mat and simply allow the knees to roll all the way over towards the right side. The hands can still be behind your sitting bones. And simply going to the second side here, allowing the knees to roll over towards the left. When you're ready, find a comfortable seated position for yourself. Any comfortable seat works. And from here, we'll bring the hands together at the heart center. We'll bow the forehead towards the fingertips. And as always, we use this final moment of our practice to give ourselves a little bit of gratitude for showing up on our mat in the first place, for our willingness to attempt a lot of challenging postures, and a gratitude towards our body for everything it is capable of, the good and the bad. And here we plant our sankalpa, our good intention for the rest of the day or week. And if we can't think of anything good for ourselves, we send it out to somebody else. The light in me recognizes the light in you. Namaste, Yogi. Thank you so much for joining me in today's practice. I hope you enjoyed this much more challenging class. And of course, if you have questions, suggestions, or feedback, pop it in the comment section down below. If you want to find me anywhere else online, all of that information is in the description for this video. And if you liked it, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends. That is the most important one. We want to spread the good word. And otherwise, I hope to see you back on your mat next week for another slow flow with me. Ready, Yogi.